Welcome back, guys. Here we are with the post game with the final score. Grey Knights 72, Death Guard 75.
75.
75. All because of one man, one myth, one legend surviving everything. Purifiers, the Shrine, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Who was that guy? Was that
Lord of Contagion? I think he's
Lord
going to
of
have to be in my next Death Guard list because he earned his place there.
He did, because him dying would have been 6 points less.
More than that, because I also had Secure No Man's Land, and he was doing that for me too.
Oh,
as my last secondary, so it cost me another couple points.
So literally, him saving.
So it cost me 8. Yeah, so I would have lost 8 points. So you've been even further ahead.
Yep. All right, so let's go over some of the highlights and talk about some stuff, and then I want to wrap up with some of the things and thoughts in the Death Guard, all in all, since it's the first time we're seeing them realistically. So first things first, that -1 to the armor, massive. I had no idea how to play or plan into that.
Yeah, well, you just got regular Space Marine armor now. It's 3.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, the Hellbrute was huge, I think, because his ability to tag something far away and put it in the contagion range until the start of my next turn was a big deal. Even if you're using other contagions, like the one that makes their weapon skill and ballistic skill reduced by 1, I think it's still a huge deal. Definitely want to put a Hellbrute in every Death Guard list.
Early game, I think you could be more aggressive with him because he could push across the field. Because in the late game, once you started increasing to that range of the contagion, he was kind of less and less necessary.
Yeah,
but still good. Still good.
He does impact mortals on the charge too. So if he does get into a fight, he can proc off D3 mortals.
Oh, and then you can tank shock too.
Charge. Yeah.
Double up on that. So like in the early standpoints of the game, I was starting to score very heavily. And one of the things we discussed right away was Death Guard speed, the lack thereof. Now you have a lot of stuff that obviously ignores that kind of with 10-inch moves, but it did, like, if you look at the scoreboard, it was later into the game that you were able to score your points because of a lot of other stuff just really being very tough. Like, as far as, yes, you don't have the feel no pains, you don't have the reduced damage, but just having silly little vehicles that have toughness 9, that's tough to deal with.
Yeah, especially when there's a lot of them. And obviously making them -1 to hit with Cloud of Flies is handy too. So I definitely think that there's a lot of play at Death Guard. I might try some kind of infantry to kind of push up, and then to keep the Blight Haulers from getting shot, or not shot, but prevent them from getting charged too soon, so they can keep shooting and moving about.
Maybe some Poxwalkers.
Yeah, well, Poxwalkers, I think only have a 4-inch move.
Oh, now can you advance with them?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if there's any units that legally just are not allowed to ever advance.
If any army would have it, Death Guard would have it. No, you can't advance.
This is fair.
Yeah, it's hilarious because the Terminators have a 4-inch move. The Poxwalkers, I think, are also a 4-inch move. Barely anyone scoops around, so makes things kind of tricky. But yeah, I definitely. I feel like the Death Guard is correctly pointed now. I don't think they're overpowered. I think they're strong. I think they have play in most anything. So I feel good about where they're at.
Okay, so early points of the game, like I said, the Grey Knights, I was able to come out, score heavily, and really just cover the field and hold it. And you having vehicles were forced in a position where you really had to utilize the terrain. So what was going through your mind at that point of trying to funnel and almost feeling like you were just being funneled into a corridor at that point? Were you concerned that this was about to turn into just a shooting gallery versus that Land Raider?
Well, I was hoping that. I mean, what's a Land Raider going to do? Pick up one of those guys per turn, one of the Blight Haulers per turn. Yeah, I lined them all up in a row there, I think, turn 1. And they got all 9 of them in a row to start shooting at the Land Raider, even if we didn't do much damage turn 1. No, because I felt like I wasn't too worried about other than the Land Raider and the Nemesis Dread Knights, I wasn't worried about you harming my vehicles very much, even though Librarian with his mortals could still put some work out. So that was my primary concern. Pick up the Land Raider, do something about the Dread Knights, and then at least I have the durability problem solved where I'm going to be able to move around the table more and not worry about getting just blasted off the table. But the other problem, of course, is that your mobility is crazy against an army that has a 10-inch move on some of his. You can just deep strike all over the place.
Yeah, I think early on, like I was getting real greedy. I was trying to, and I think the dice were correcting me for that. First of all, Land Raider just put up a big goose egg this game. Like every time he just
we both had a
failed.
couple of big whiffs. Yeah.
Yes,
but he definitely had a key turn where if he had popped off, it would have made a big difference, and he did not.
No, and there was also one turn where I just needed him to kill one, literally just kill one, and he dropped it to 1 wound. So that was rough beats on him. Over into the flank, when I dropped in the librarian, I tried to hit and do that stuff, and ended up just hurting myself in the long run. So that was kind of rough. And I felt like some of my offense, my attacks, when I tried to do like little extra stuff, were just not really helping too well. Where, again, I still had the movement, but it was all the reliable movement. Oh, I shoot with the interceptors and then I move and all that stuff. And that worked out well. But just, again, vehicles are tough for me. I don't know. What did you feel like coming from my side where there probably was? I mean, obviously, this would be a whole different conversation if the character died. Somewhere in some other universe, character died and 9 points.
I got your Terminator squad down to 1 wound before they dropped away. So if I had killed that one Terminator, there are lots of places where obviously, in my opinion, anytime a Warhammer game is within like maybe 15 points, there could be any little change that made any difference to it. So sure, I won, but it was just, any dice roll at any point would have changed it one way or the other. It made my lead bigger or would have put you in the win. So obviously, I would have liked to kill you a little bit faster because you still have a lot. You got Terminator Squad, a couple of characters. You got 3 characters. You probably have 500 or 600 points on the table still. I think we're probably similar in terms of points we have left on the table. I think in order to really shut Grey Knights down, you have to kill them faster just to give them fewer assets because just about anything you have can be scooped off the table at the end of the turn as long as they're not engaged. And then my turn and deep struck on your turn. And man, those interceptors with their ability to drop down 9 inches away, shoot, and then move just steals objectives like crazy.
Yeah,
you've done that multiple times this game, and it was huge.
Well, there was one other thing that I was considering, and that's the fact that I probably should have put more pressure on your character and tried to finish him off because I mean that was way too many points, and I kind of just let him do it. I kind of just let him hang there, and I was more too focused on where we're over here with the PVC, and I thought I kind of got greedy with that. I wanted to push the librarian, and I shouldn't have pushed him. Like what he does in damage is negligible with that. So that's probably somewhere I probably should change that up. Again, this is the first tweaks to this list. The list still operates very well. I still score nasty on secondaries. I mean, my secondaries, the army just, I go, oh, okay, how do I score these and make it easy?
Yeah, because for 1 CP, you can deep strike outside of 3 inches.
Yep.
You have the interceptors that can deep strike and then shoot and then move 6 inches. All those things give you tremendous ability to steal objectives, get into deployment zones, get into table quarters, all that stuff.
Yep. And now, yes, I could have probably dropped the Terminators down on that objective and taken it, but I'm not 100% sure that I'm legally allowed to use the within 3 inches strat on the deep strike on the pick up and go because it says when a unit enters from deep strike, then they can be put 3 inches away. Well, that unit technically nowhere in the wording of it for the teleport assault. It picks up the table and it says during a reinforcement step in the next turn, you could place the unit anywhere on the field 9 inches away. But it doesn't say you can place them per deep strike rules.
I agree. My Deathwatch army, I take Inceptors, and Deathwatch have a 1 CP strat to pick up a unit and then drop them in the next turn. I don't use the Inceptor ability to drop outside of 3 inches because of the wording on that at least for the Deathwatch, the wording is it comes in from the reserve step anywhere more than 9 inches away. It doesn't say it becomes deep strike.
And I do feel like that's intentional. I feel like that's intentional, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So
I agree with you, and I play it the same way with mine.
Yeah, that character, I should have put him down there. Now, moving forward, and this is kind of our cleanup step for the whole thing, and to wrap this up in our last messages, would you take this competitively to a tournament?
I'm not sure, because I feel like there might be certain missions when it kind of gets shut down a little bit. But on the other hand, it did do really well. I mean, you've been tuning your Grey Knights a little bit. This is literally the first time I've played him in 10th edition. And I don't think the mission did not give me any advantages because I only have 1 character in my army.
Right.
So I actually feel like it did pretty well. Like I said, I feel like the points are good. Their durability is good. Grey Knights are not known for their damage output, so the higher damage output army might wreck Death Guard still. But I feel like they are in a pretty good place. They're 5-up invulns. were relevant at points during the game.
Very much so.
Yeah,
very
I
much
definitely
so.
rolled some 5-ups, especially in combat and that sort of thing. But I think Death Guard definitely have play. How good they are, I don't know, but they're definitely not at the bottom anymore. They're kind of in that mid range, kind of a stat check because you have to be able to work through them.
Right on.
How you feeling about the Grey Knights?
So I'm not feeling too comfortable around the Librarian. He was a fun utility. He was a fun toy. And that's what I kind of felt like. He was a toy. He wasn't very, very reliable. Yes, he could do, I mean, more times than not, he's going to do 2d3 mortal wounds. If I get lucky and roll a 6, cool. I do 2d6 damage. But that's not, I can't base on that. And if I roll a 1, bam, I'm doing damage to myself. So more times than not, I'm doing 2d3 damage. If you look on it on an average, I'm doing 4 mortal wounds basically on him. His other psychic power really sucked. His the combi weapon is not good on him for the reason that there isn't more. If it was a squad of combi weapons like Sternguard vets, I could see that happening. So honestly, all in all, I wasn't really that impressed with the Librarian.
I almost feel like you should take him not in a unit. Not in a unit. And you kind of used him in this game against things that were not on their last couple wounds. I think he's great against stuff that might have a couple wounds left. So I would consider just toying with the idea of keeping him just by himself.
My big fear is he's not lone operative.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, he deep strikes and he takes the last couple wounds off of something you did some damage to. It might be something to consider. It's up to you. But I feel like with the Terminators, like their shooting never did much of anything, but he'd do 3 or 4 mortals.
And his
the targets
role,
you were going into were at full strength, so it wasn't.
And his role could be somewhere completely different. I did like having First to the Fray because that did help with engage on all fronts. Granted, I ran the Dread Knight in there, so I still got engage on all fronts that way. So I may not have even needed him for engage on all fronts. I may have teched into that for it, where the only thing left that I can't get on turn 1 is behind enemy lines. But again, how many armies can? I'm not even sure if you're legally allowed to. But really, how many armies can? Very few can. I know GSC can, but behind enemy lines is going to be difficult no matter what. So I think I still have coverage and engage on all fronts that I might be able to drop First to the Fray. And I might be able to drop the Libby entirely, which would free up 135 points. The second Dread Knight was fine. I mean, he was another threat, and I mean, part of me, honestly,
the tank shock with him is just so good.
It really is.
Having that redundancy so that one gets tied up or gets killed, having the next one, you would consistently do like 5 mortals on the tank shock charge, which is huge. And then he hits like a truck too, especially the one with the hammer. It does a lot of damage.
Yeah, I'm going to give the sword another try. I don't think that's a valid test into this because, like you said, you have all vehicles. That's interesting.
Yeah, you charged into Blight Haulers with him, and yeah, it wasn't that. What's the strength of the sword?
10.
Yeah.
I think the biggest 2 things right now at this point with what I did for points is if I drop the Librarian and I drop the Voidsman at Arms, which they really were worthless this game. Because my Tech Marine held back most of the time and I stickied that objective, the Voidsman didn't do anything. They scored 2 points at the end of the game. That was it. So I feel like I could drop them and the Librarian, and that's 185 points. That's a third Dread Knight right there.
No, how much Dread Knights are?
185 points.
Yeah, do it. At that point, you're definitely pushing into something new. Okay, that's what you do.
That's what you're thinking.
What's their move is 12, right?
Their move is 8, but they get but whenever you advance, they automatically advance 6 inches and
they
gain
can shoot
fly.
and charge.
And they can advance, shoot, and charge.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, especially for even if they're not doing damage output, they can do that onto an objective and do an action or something. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Because they're still legal. So yeah, I mean, I could drop the Libby and that, and then
they're 185 points.
185 points. And then go through triple Dread Knight. All right. Well, there's the question, guys. What do you think? I am not going to change much of this list. I mean, I've run this thing, and I think it still runs very well for Grey Knights. What do you think? Drop the Libby and the Voidsman, and that's a Dread Knight. That's another Dread Knight. Put 3 Dread Knights in the list. Go 2 with hammers, 1 with a sword. I think that would probably be the best route to go with it. And I mean, if I had the 3rd Dread Knight in this instead of the Libby, then, well, I would not have been able to drop in and hurt myself, would have been the first thing. I still would have gotten the
He
Dread.
didn't hurt himself today.
I would have gotten the Dread Knight in the corner, and I still would have gotten the Interceptor, so I still would have gotten Engage on turn 1. So then when I went over here to pick up the Blight Hauler instead of, or the floated bloat drone, instead of picking up the bloat drone, I would have still picked up the bloat drone. I would have put the Terminators and without the Libby, who I think he only did, I think he did 4 mortal wounds when he hit, which again, the average. And then I just would have put both Dread Knights on them. And the Dread Knights would do pretty decent, especially their Psy Cannon strength 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I could have put 2 Dread Knights onto him and probably finished him off relatively quick. And I needed him for Bring It Down. So yeah, I think that would have been the better play. And then having 2 Dread Knights over here, the one jumped over and fought. The other one could have went and whooping and a walloping on the Plagueburst Crawler. So I think that might be the way we go.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. Again, Death Guard get their first victory here with 10th edition on the channel. Look forward to seeing them again soon. And guys, we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.